There is a nice afterglow. If you have something in mind, feel free to speak, or we can just sit.
Rinpoche, may I ask?
Sure.
If every time during retreats, during hard times, during dark nights, I think about giving up on practice, does it mean that I don't have enough readiness or karma or something? Does it mean that I haven't suffered enough? I don't know. What does it mean in general?
I don't know, you tell me. Is giving up an option?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. But these spots are just like poof. Lots of them, like massive amount.
But if I really ask you, is giving up an option, yes or no?
I don't know. You see, I can't decide. It's like I should say, I stop practicing Dharma from this point until the end of my life, right?
Mm.
No, I can't promise that. I mean, I could be like very angry and stop practicing, for instance, for a week, for two, for even a month. But when I see that life isn't becoming better on its own, and nothing happens, and it was as shitty as before, as with Dharma, and I'm like, okay, I should practice probably.
I sometimes take breaks. Is there a feedback?
Yeah, probably. I could turn off the mic.
You can turn the speakers down so that the microphone doesn't pick my voice. So I sometimes take breaks from practice, like let's say once a year, 1, 2, 3 days, something like this, just to see what it does. I had never really thought about stopping practice or giving up practice, because to me it's not an option. It just isn't an option. Like I can't really take that option seriously. But I do take breaks. sometimes to see what happens. And what usually happens when I take breaks is that after 2 or 3 days, it becomes so obvious that, oh shit, all this junk coming up, dullness coming up, fogginess. No way I'm going back to practice. And the purpose of taking those breaks is to clarify my own motivation. Highly recommend it. Not every week, not even every month, but every year.
I think I find this dullness when everything else is how to explain it. I find this dullness I think pretty satisfying, pretty enjoyable when the rest of the life is kind of okay. So if nothing happens, nothing bad, at the moment, no changes, nor some challenges, etc., etc. When this dullness is kind of okay for me, I mean, I can sit in it for a week, for two, I don't know, smoking weed, watching TV shows, and it's like it's bearable. It feels okay for such short periods. It feels okay, really, for me. Maybe I don't know. I mean, I probably just don't. I don't know something that you know. That's the reason why I consider this dullness to be okay. Probably.
Each of us is on our own path. It's our own path. It's useless to, we can learn about the lives and paths of past masters and be motivated. There's again the feedback. Maxim, if you can turn down your speakers. And it can be a source of inspiration to learn about great practitioners. But nevertheless, their paths have been theirs and we have ours. And like us, they also had their hardships, difficulties in life, problems in their life, problems in their practice. But they worked through it. And in the same way, we have to. In the sense that, we have to, walk and make our own path. We can't copy the life of others. So, I don't have a problem, Maxim, with, whatever you choose for yourself. Right? And on the other hand, what I choose for myself shouldn't be a problem for others, because those are my choices and also consequences after those choices that I answer myself. So if you feel like watching Netflix and smoking weed for a few days or a week every now and then, go ahead and do that.
The rest of the life, what about it?
I have no problem with it. It's your choice. It's your responsibility.
My problem with choices that I don't know what the consequences is in full.
Hmm.
Oh, you do.
Speaking of biographies and autobiographies of great practitioners, uh, I always felt that, reading biographies that were too polished, like if they only mm, praise that certain person who became a master or a great yogini or yogi, if there's only like a praise and not much mention of hardships and difficulties, I find it like a turn off. On the other hand, those stories, accounts that do speak of difficulties, those I find useful because, you know, practice and life in general wasn't easy for me from the beginning, very difficult. So, personally, I relate much more with people like myself who have had, like masters who have experienced what I have. For example, I remember in Dujom Lingpa was a very famous Tibetan tantric and Dzogchen master. He passed away in 1904. Uh, Dujom Lingpa, in his autobiography, he says many times that I was gripped by fear. He was had a lot of anxiety, and honestly says how he felt many times over his practice. And to me, those were the most useful points in the whole book, in the whole story, rather than, it's also, nice to read about his mystic experiences, his meetings with, high teacher, high lamas, and so on. But to me, it was the difficulties that find most useful. On the other hand, for example, Dilgo Khyentse Rinpoche's autobiography, it's a wonderful book, but he was born into a wealthy family. I wasn't, and to him, his story is very different to my life. So I can't really relate to his story, although I love the master Dilgo Rinpoche a lot. But I didn't grow up having assistants and servants of my own like he did, and so forth, even though he also had illness. But I couldn't really relate to his story.
Sorry, Kim, is Dujum Lingpa's book, is it called Fathoming the Stillness?
No, Fathoming the Stillness is Alan Wallace's, is it Vipassana book? I'm not sure, but it's not that. It's what's the English title? It's just a moment. I'll grab it.
It's called A Clear Mirror.
Oh,
okay.
I just bought it.
good choice.
You don't need to try to come up with a question. Just relax. Let's relax together.
Actually, yeah, sorry, Kim, I must be feeling talkative today, but if no one else is asking anything, I'm curious about the after the we did a lot of pets, or we did about 10 pets after the Vajrabodhi. I found I was really clear, really stable, really strong, really nice. And then you said, let's all do a lot of pets. And I was curious to see if there would be any difference in the natural state I was in.
Mm-hmm.
And the pets felt quite, good and strong, but it didn't reveal deeper natural state. It didn't really, and if anything, it felt a bit like it upset the stability I had after the Vajrabodhi sequence. It sort of threw me. I felt a bit, yeah. I was wondering, I know when you use pets and you're already in a very clear natural state that they just don't have any effects. There's no need. But I'm wondering if sometimes if you do use a lot of pets, could it go the other way? Could it throw your natural state into something uncomfortable, or is that possible?
No, but no, I never had that experience, but I've had, apparently like yourself, I've had the experience that, I was mentioning about those limits, what is too much, what is enough, what is too little. So what can happen is that it's the same thing with tantric mantras, that at some point it kind of feels like the mantra doesn't do anything. But then if you keep doing it, or if you keep shouting pets, it's not really, you won't come up with some problems with that, or energetic issues won't come out of that, but it's kind of like, I often sometimes use the analogy of, cup, when you pour water or tea into a cup, it starts spilling when it's full. It's kind of like that. So it doesn't feel like that it stirs up stuff, but it's kind of like a sensation of doing too much. Can you relate to that?
Yeah. No, that sounds about right. Yeah, that's how it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the session before the effect was so strong, and then it was just excess. Plus, yeah.
That's also a good experience. Now you know. Now you've had that experience, and you know.
Yeah, exactly. Like if I was on my own, I wouldn't have used pets. I would have felt I was okay. I would have tried maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, that's good.
I recorded that session for beginners. So the reason why we did so many, even though this group joining had no need for it in that amount, is because usually people who start practice, they are too shy and don't use their voice and dynamic concentration enough. So that's why I wanted to make sure that they, do the guided practice and kind of get it going. So if someone else had the same problem like Luke, my apologies. I did it for all sentient beings.
May I add something to that, Luke? Yeah, from my experience, it can be as Kim describes it, and sometimes we get stuck in this meditative states of clarity, or you feel like, so, oh yeah, this is it, and then you make the pets, and then oh no, it's gone. the peace is gone, the nice is gone. From my experience, this is why I think with pet you cannot really do any harm if you are stuck in a comfort zone state like clarity or bliss. It kind of wakes you up again and smashes some thoughts around your head or some emotions or some turbulences. And if not, it's just like Kim described, it's just this, okay, just doesn't add or take away anything of it anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I'm finding maybe a slight bit of an intoxication with the effects from the Vajra body at the moment. It's very strong. So yeah, you know, Ugi just mentioned the word bliss there. You know, it's so there is that. Yeah, it's fine-tuned, the balance, and the effect of the pet sometimes can like Ugi said, just smash that sort of over intoxication or that over energetic. You know, it's very enjoyable. You know, but maybe it's sort of a bit into bliss, and yeah, you need still to cut through that. So it was possibly that's what was happening as well.
And it makes sense that you said that you had a lot of anger, and to, you know, that's hitting the samsaric nerve, but also blissful sensations is hitting samsaric nerve. But of course, blissful intoxication, it's very, what is that word? Charming, or is it enticing in English? Enticing, because it feels so comfortable. You know, you wanna, it's like a Maxim getting stoned. You know, you get stoned because of bliss. You kind of want to feel this. You know, you want to problem free.
Get a good TV show, yeah.
But that's the same. That's actually the same. It's like the kind of the sides of a coin. Strong negative emotion, and then that bliss. Sides of the same karmic samskaric grooves. And Buddhists throughout the history of Buddhism, you know, have been very particular about this, that don't fall into bliss, neither fall into thoughtless states. Don't mistake that for the real thing. That's an awful trap. Yeah. Having said that, you know, enjoying bliss, I think, can also be good, especially for people who are ill. Yesterday, somebody was asking about being ill, and I think it can also be good thing because it gives you a momentary release. As long as you stay in the bliss, you feel okay. So from that perspective, it's good. But from the point of view of Dharma practice, if your goal is to gain more clarity, gain more self-knowledge, become a Buddha, then don't waste your time too much with bliss.
Did you just say thoughtless states?
Thoughtless, yes.
Yeah. What exactly do you mean there?
No thoughts. Okay, I'll explain this. So it's a classic trap of meditators to, when you go into a state where there are no thoughts, to think that, oh, this is wonderful. There are no thoughts here, so I'll just stay here, right? But then, because of the subconscious mind, something comes out from the subconscious mind, comes through that surface into the level of conscious mind, conscious awareness, knowing awareness, and then that's a problem because you want to stay in that thoughtless state. But now you have this thought, you have another thought, you have third thought. Ah, fuck, what do I do with these thoughts? I want to be in thoughtless state, right? So that's the trap. The way how Buddhism solves that trap, removes that trap, is to see into the selflessness of thoughts. So you can still have thoughts, but if they have no self-charge, you can have million thoughts. Well, that's maybe too many. But you can have dozen thoughts in your mind, and there's no problem whatsoever, because the charge, the glue is gone.
Yeah, it's the non-attachment to them. It's not following them around like.
Yeah.
Because my struggle is, would be following the thoughts, so I get a thought and then I'm out swimming in the sea, or I'm thinking about food, or I'm thinking about money, or I think about, my girl, whatever. And like the little breakthroughs for me is when I don't, when I realize, oh, I'm not running around the country after these thoughts, I'm not on the, I'm not on the merry-go-round, But I guess you just let them exist without attachment. Is that it? Like
that's like a shamatha experience, and it's good that this came up. That's shamatha, like a detachment from thoughts, but not having the insight of the selflessness of thoughts. Those are two different things, and both are fine. But detaching from the thoughts, realizing that you don't actually have to believe your thoughts, and you don't have to follow them. That's shamatha. That's kind of establishing calmness or thoughtlessness. And thoughtlessness is also useful to a degree, but what will be like a permanent solution to being distracted by thoughts is to pay attention when you have a thought, feel into the self-charge, or your, what is the word? Self, like the feel, see how you are invested in those thoughts. See what's the meanness, I-ness in that thought thinking process. When you become aware of that, it will eventually, you will see through it, and that will release that selfing. And that's a permanent solution. That's vipassana. That's no longer shamatha, it's vipassana.
Does that mean, Kim, you're chasing every thought around? That you're investigating every thought, or are you talking about the ones that have the greatest pull on you?
That's a good question. You can do both, but I would say that make sure for yourself. Become certain. And to become certain, you have to practice. Like I talk about these two modes every weekend, every retreat, right? So we are talking about our basic practice here. But so like I have said today as well, make the practice your own. So this means that if you're not sure, if you have to have your own insight, you have to have your own experience. And the way you have that is through applying the practice every moment. Really studying, looking into what happens in the mind. So, yes, to your first option, yes. If you haven't watched, haven't vigilantly observed, you have to do that. And that's how, for sure, you'll come to certainty. And when you've done that, like I said, it doesn't matter if you have thoughts or not after that.
Yeah, I can see if I'm practicing, Kim, if I'm practicing and on the, on the cushion or sitting, yeah, and a thought comes across my mind. I've tended to maybe concentrate on those thoughts that in fact are frequent visitors to me, rather than if it's just a thought which is a fleeting type of thought. Like it's now getting overcast here and the sun is going, and the thought would be, oh, I'm not going to go for that walk or whatever. Where there are other thoughts and they visit me maybe, 10, 20 times a day. On those ones, certainly I'm engaging in Vipassana, Because when I'm going around in my life, see, what I'm getting from what you said is that each thought really, as I'm going along, as I'm walking, as I'm meeting people, that each thought I should be looking at that individual thought. Yeah.
But my point is that, just to be clear, that you will find out this for yourself if you haven't already, that there is no point watching thoughts always like a hawk. When that self-charge is released, watching thoughts like a hawk becomes pointless. It's like you don't have to do that, because there's no pull. There's no pull. So also my experience of, I used to be really, really nervous and restless. I still am sometimes, but I used to be much more nervous before, and I had a lot of very restless mind, a lot of thoughts. But then, as my practice boomies opened and perfected one by one, I still have thoughts, much less than I used to have. But even those, I'm still samsaric being, so there are some thoughts that still have the grab. But should I say most of my thoughts are just, no pull, no grab. And I'm sure that's how it is for some of you as well.
Yeah, it seems to get subtle as we go on. more fine, you know, the margins. Like my situation after the Vajra body, I'm feeling, you know, revitalized and strong and clear. And then you introduced, okay, let's do pets. And I had this subtle just thought saying, oh, I don't want to do pets. I feel nice and feel good. I feel nice and stable. I don't want to disrupt. But it was subtle. I wasn't like freaking out and saying, oh, I'm not doing, you know, I kind of went, you know, but I was aware that that thought came in, that I was happy where I was and I didn't want to do pets. So it just seems to get more subtle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I find the model in Buddhism actually very beautifully clear around this, that you have the 5 sense consciousnesses, you have smell, you have taste, and thinking is just the 6th consciousness. It's abstraction, it's mental images. And we tend to, that's our selfing is much more, the clinging is much more attached to the mental consciousness than it is to seeing or hearing or tasting usually. And to have a reference point how it feels to see through thinking, not to have no thoughts, but to see through it, is how you hear, for example, in this moment. You don't cling to the birds or whatever, it's just free flowing, and it's coming and going. There is no clinging to the soundscape at the moment. And when the Vipassana is really taking on its effect, it's the same as the thinking process. This is just, there's just this, you notice that it wasn't the thinking after all, which was the problem. Often in New Age or in meditation schools, you hear the slogan, no thoughts, no problem. But it's not the thoughts which are the problem. It's this reifying, this clinging. And then it just, I think that's what you mean, Luke. It gets subtler. You begin to sense that it's not the thinking, that there is this tendency to make things into me and you, which is not itself a thought. It's just this belief in existence, this ignorance, this pure ignorance coming in its pure form, very subtly, but you can perceive it very directly more and more.
Yeah.
Pure ignorance, Luke.
I knew it. Pure self-ignorance. Same old story.
Yeah, we've been aware of that in Dublin for a while, Luke.
Exiled me. Yeah. Well, nobody's perfect.
Okay, let's take a break for 1 hour and continue at 6 p.m. EET. Thank you. Thank you all.